is hanging on to our side and won't give it back.
Yeah.
She's like, it's my ticket.
That's so funny. I think I gave Chris one of this because I heard the shop open. If not,
Maybe,
Andy, can you hear us? Okay. I just took it off you just a second ago, so no worries.
Do we broadcast these?
We do.
They're safe to broadcast.
Yep. So you can go on the city website and go to the live meetings is what it's called. Sometimes it's live, sometimes it's not, but regardless, all of the meetings are there and you can click on the YouTube link and watch any of the old meetings.
I watched the regular ones. I just didn't notice that these were on there.
Okay,
They're under different headers, so the first one will say city council,
Right.
and there's HPRC and planning, you just click on it and we'll take you to the planning one, if you wanted to.
So mass drive down.
oh, is it?
Well, they got the highway closed. Well, it looks like they reopened it. I shouldn't say closed. But a rock slide on Plume Hill.
Oh, really?
So it's really backed up. And
I heard Empire and Georgetown both have landslides right now.
Wow.
well, imperative.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Empire
It's raining hard and you hit town and it's not as bad.
I
So
saw
it wasn't
that.
even raining up at the ski area. It's like, it's
Huh.
right in between Silver Plume and Fremont there. How's everyone?
I saw a truck fire in the tunnel earlier.
You
A
know,
what?
the truck fire in the tunnel.
Oh, there was today?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I didn't see that. Well, you, I guess I didn't pay attention.
It'll light up things.
That's right. That's where I get all my news.
Find out stuff there faster than CDOT tells you, that's for sure.
Yeah, right?
and I guess there was something in front of my house too that people was texting me about.
Jeez.
This one?
Ambulances
I mean,
and
the
stuff and police officers.
Everybody.
It only
The one here.
So if you know, find out.
Oh, my goodness.
It's one of the activity things,
How
so.
many people live away
Yeah.
from me?
House, no.
Yeah, we had a friend with a big
Yeah,
house.
I mean,
We were
I
like,
know
we
the
expect
ones
them to
that
socialize,
they
we
want.
spend
I
big
remember last
dollars.
time I
What's happening?
Oh, it said every national's closing over here on the corner.
Oh, they are.
Pretty prime real estate.
I wonder what they're gonna do with their safety deposit.
You can go to Georgetown or Burton Park.
Open a new safe deposit at
Or the closed
I
bank.
hadn't heard that one.
No, I just read that and I thought, my gosh.
A nice
Can't even
steakhouse.
keep a bank.
Like the mint. Would be cool.
Let's see, what was the other one? The one that had the gold-
Tracy's not gonna be here.
Oh, okay.
So,
Then we
yeah,
have
you can get
everybody.
started. You can go for it.
Okay, well, thank you all for attending this evening. This nice summer rainy evening. So just a brief announcement. First of all, I'm just over here mostly because as I told a couple of people, Kim tested positive. I've been testing negative, but just out of abundance of caution. I didn't want to change anything up too much, but I'm just gonna stay a little bit further away. So,
Thank you.
sure.
I'm following suit.
I've already had it twice. I'm not-
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
We did a self-test, we body negative both. That's good.
So then to get started, we have two items on the agenda. We did want to talk a little bit about these two things and see what the planning commission's thoughts are. Can't take the temperature of the commission before really working on any ordinances, et cetera, to bring before you. The first one is related to hotel and motel licensing. There was a press release that was sent out a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if everybody saw it, but we have had a number of incidents in some of the hotels where the hotel rooms aren't always used for short-term transient, I'm coming through for a week or something. Sometimes they're used more as workforce housing, which we really need. However, sometimes that leads to a little bit more of an unhealthy, unsafe environment if people stay in those units for too long without kitchens, without a number of other things. So the city's run into that a few times here. And so what we're what we wanted to talk about a little bit was this idea of the potential for regulating hotel and motel properties and rooms at a higher level than we currently do. So in your packet, we did have an example ordinance from Wheat Ridge. They have had/have a similar challenge, and they chose to do a little bit more of a metric system where it was based on call volume for emergency services. I think a lot of their ordinance is good, it's solid, but a part of me wonders if it isn't a little too, or a little more detailed than we really need.
It's long.
And yeah, I guess from a staff perspective, yeah, the goal for the Wheat Ridge ordinance is a little more geared towards nuisance and crime and calls. I think ours, this is what input we want too. I think the goals of the city are a little bit more health, safety, and well-being. And so in that regard, what staff, it's staff's opinion that maybe an ordinance similar, only a little more general, and that would allow for maybe an annual inspection of the properties, rather than based on call volume or something of that on a metric is what staff's mindset is, but we wanted to get the opinions of the planning commission.
Okay, so is the thought to not allow it or
Yeah, what's the
license it
intention?
differently, or they can do 50-50, have a percentage? Because, I mean, let's use the H&H as an example. I know they house all the J1 students, and so does the Argo hotel. We put students in there.
I think
And that is exactly what we're talking about here. And has there been incidences? You bet there has. So what is it we're trying to do? I think making the establishment more accountable, where their license has to be maybe both. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are we thinking that we want to do? What
So-
were you thinking?
Yeah, we're thinking about a licensing program, indeed. And our main concern is, so some of those instances, the properties have a kitchen on site or something of that nature. And others, there really isn't, we're concerned about plugging in the hot plates. And so if we're able to do more of an annual inspection to try to either ensure that they are being used for temporary visits, or if they are being used for longer visits, to make sure that there's something, a kitchen on site or some other means of accommodation. So
An annual is gonna be isn't gonna cover it because
Okay.
they're seasonal workers, so you have seasonal rotations. Like right now, they're filled with your summer helpers, and in the winter season, the winter helpers. And it's not just the ski area, it's Bojo's, it's, McDonald's.
Baldwin, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Okay,
a lot of
sure.
them. And they come through different work groups. And well, use the Paradise as an example. What are they licensed?
So that's an interesting one. We're currently looking into that a little bit.
Yeah,
Because they more or less changed their use without really talking with us. So
Yeah.
but we intend to have future conversations with them.
yeah.
I kind of like something you kind of alluded to, like maybe a dual license, like you have a motel hotel license, but you also have like a short-term rental license.
Not short-term rental.
Long-term.
Yeah.
Long-term, but not long-term.
Well, it's.
Like not annual rentals, but like
Yeah.
a 3-month at a time
It's-
rental or something like that.
Well, no, you hate to put a time limit on it, because if they get that guy that works at the ski area and wants to stay living there year round,
Yeah, that could be 6 months or 9 months.
yeah,
even.
Does that happen a lot? No.
Facilities, I think that's kind of what you're aiming at, is like, do they have the facilities for someone to live there versus just stay there?
But you always
Yeah.
get that guy that brings in his coffee maker, his hot plates, all that stuff that I know with the Paradise, and let's use that as an example. We lease out through the ski area. We have a contract with the Paradise. I don't know what they're doing during the summer. We have people that when there's incidents, they go down and do an inspection. And we have
Oh.
a security guy that does it. So we're pretty on top of it because it really pisses us off. And we have kicked people out of it and we call it employee housing. But you also need to do the property owner accountable because they said they were gonna have a RA, is that what it's called? A RA on
Somebody on
site,
staff
and they
member on
do,
site.
but you know, that's a tough one too. They ended up with somebody that was not very good, and then the next person came along, and then they'd walk in a room and it's, yeah.
Okay,
So I agree with coming down on it. I think there's just a lot more to it.
yeah, and
What's
that's,
their license right now? Is it hotel motel?
it's not really a license, it's just, if they're zoned appropriately for the use, then they get a business license, I guess,
Okay, and that's it.
and that's it, yeah.
So what are they doing in the summers? Seasonal rentals again, or it's not hotel during the summer?
I'm not certain about all of them. I know that some still, house people on a, short-term basis, and
Yeah.
some house them on a much longer-term basis.
It's almost like we have to have the categories. It wouldn't be STRs, it would be hotel motel. And I don't know what's the term you would use.
Can you call it extended stay?
There,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. there you
Extended?
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
because they don't do it just for the students. Let's get that out there. It's not just for the students. The nice thing for the students, it's coordinated through one person. And I can give you her name to be in contact with and stuff.
okay,
But, and tries to do a good job with it. So anything that can help her along the way too. But, it's not any different. You can walk into the Argo right now and you can walk in and say, hey, I just got a job in town here. I have no place to stay. Okay, we'll charge you $250 a week. And they'll just take a room and give it to them. Yeah. And that's, we see a lot of that. I hear a lot of it because we get that person that you hire. And it's like, well, you gotta find a place to live, and they call you 2 days later, oh yeah, I got a place at the 6 and 40, and they're gonna charge me, and they charge them $250 a week, which isn't that bad, that's $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
But it includes your heat, your electricity, your
Yeah.
cable TV, so it's kind of a
well, and we,
good housing.
You don't have to have deposit or last
Yeah.
month or any of that.
Yeah, I'm sure they ask for stuff like that, but that's between them and the.
and the city is cognizant that we have a lot of, rooms that are filled. And we don't want to create a larger problem of housing if we can avoid it, but we just want to make sure that it's done
Right,
safe, et cetera.
right.
The Wheat Ridge ordinance it did have other provisions for extended stay. So, and it had certain things that you had to have on site. Maybe we could kind of look
Oh.
at that.
I don't remember seeing.
Let's see.
There was so much.
Oh, it's, unfortunately, there are not page numbers, which stinks. But,
What section number?
let's see.
Section 11.568. It's at the bottom of the page.
Page 5, pretty much, from the document.
The applicant, in addition
Yeah,
to
here we go.
precondition of the issuance of a extended stay license, addendum must apply for, oops, I might have gone too far. So the nice thing about that is, they give in-room characteristics. It must be 300 square feet, et cetera, and then common area characteristics as well. 24-hour desk staff, provision of storage of any personal possessions within shared common areas, universal wireless internet, in-room and common area laundry. business center, let's see, minimum three. Yeah, they have to have three of the following items: a business center, a fitness center, swimming pool, meeting area, conference room, on-site restaurant, or other available food options. So, we could kind of craft something similar to that as well, that if you're going to have people at a location for a longer period of time, that you would potentially need some of those amenities. I don't know that we would make the swimming pool, maybe that's a little less.
Yeah, well, it was 3 out of 5, right?
Yes, precisely, yeah.
And maybe we can come up with ones that are more applicable to up here.
To what
I
we
think
see up
you're
here.
right. Cause I mean, I get your point, we need the workforce housing, but we also need our hotel motels to be hotel motels. So we can get that revenue stream and those visitors as well.
Yeah,
I kind of like the idea of an additional licensing addendum.
I mean, because you're gonna end up with either or. If I was owning a motel in town right now, I would do all employee housing and the heck with the hotel motel, because they're not.
Because the
they're not
housing is what we
properties.
need.
Well, and
What
they're
else?
not your hotel motels that.
Dependable income.
yeah, you could, yeah.
Let's just say I
I know what you mean.
don't
know what
think I
you
would
mean.
stay there. That's all.
Oh, yeah, fair.
I don't think I'd say some of them.
Okay, thank you. I don't have to be the only one saying,
No.
Fuji's the same way, because I can see she's thinking the same. But anyway, you can't think of it that way. Because we are in desperate need of a nice hotel in town. And people are looking more for that hotel experience than motels anymore because of safety issues. They want to walk in a lobby and go to their room. There's always that driver person that wants to motel that you drive up and go to your room. Well, actually that Lyft, what are they called?
Yeah, the new one with the red and black.
Yeah, and those rooms are very nice.
They are.
They're, I mean, if anything, that's the nicest property in town, and they are the ones that own the Paradise too, so.
I know like my in-laws come a lot and I often struggle to find them a hotel or
That,
motel
I would
in
put them in
town.
that place,
I tried,
Yeah.
it's usually booked.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's really kind of hard to find a hotel motel
yeah,
room here in town.
Airbnb is your best, then.
Yeah, well, we will have another.
I don't know which ones are the right ones, so.
That's good.
But-
Okay, so it sounds like coming up with something, and then the property owner, how much is okay, so a hotel motel pays a difference in tax, right?
Correct.
And it goes towards the lodging tax.
Yeah, they do pay a lodging tax.
Okay, so we don't want extended stay rentals to go to lodging tax. We want it to go to the city.
So I'm not sure how much flexibility we have in that without going to referendum, so I'd have to do a little digging on that.
Yeah, but that's something to look at because I know there's a strong force that would like to see none of the lodging tax go to the county, that it all just stays in Idaho Springs. And not share it. And I know that's been stuff over the years, but yeah, for rentals, definitely, I think it should stay within.
So
Does
is there
everyone
any
agree?
ordinance we have now at all? Or no?
The what?
Do we have any ordinances?
Yeah, the lodging tax does, oh, you mean as far as this
Hotel, motel,
extended
yeah.
stay? No.
Not a lot. We have, the fire district is able to get in, if they need to. So we've been working well with the fire district, but, we would like to strengthen things. The other ones are the building codes, the property maintenance code, things of that nature, but you really don't have anything explicit to, the licensing, monitoring, et cetera, of hotels. and motels.
Rodents. There's a lot of mice in these places.
Yeah, I would like to see something that would keep the properties up better and, fire safe. I mean, a town like this gets a fire, it could be really bad. So,
I mean, you look at the H&H right now, that car hit that front of that building 6 months ago, I believe. I stood there and watched it. They haven't even put a board up.
Yeah,
It's like,
Yeah,
come
we-
on. It's, yeah.
there are some property maintenance concerns around town that.
And they are one of the ones that do the hotel and the students, but I know they have some apartments.
yeah, I think some of the student ones actually have like facilities in them, like little kitchenettes and stuff like that.
Yeah, they have it, and then, but then they put 4 people in
Yeah,
a room.
or bunk beds.
Bunk
and-
beds,
yeah.
and yeah, it's like.
I would also, to Timmy's point, also like maybe a biannual inspection versus an annual.
It sounds
'Cause
like.
it's-
that
Or
might be
triggered inspection
warranted
based on-
Because,
I think it's very seasonal, and when you look at those, and we'll use the J1s is what it is, there's, summer employment and winter employment when they apply for the jobs.
okay,
And we take them from opposite seasons, like we do South America, because in the winter, it's their summer.
yeah,
And, now this time of year, I mean, gosh, you see them from, I think one year, there was a lot of them from Africa, believe it or not,
Mhm.
Nigeria or
We've
something.
had several Asian countries and
Yeah.
Eastern European and,
Hmm.
yeah, just because you run into them at Bojo's and at McDonald's.
But yeah,
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
you probably could do 2 seasons.
Or also maybe something that's triggered by number of calls, a different piece, if
Oh,
you're
I'm
getting a
worried
lot of.
about triggering by number of calls because that might disincentivize calling police when there's an issue.
That's a valid point too.
Because, oh, we can't call them, we'll get inspected.
Right, no, that's very true.
That's
too.
true, if you got the
Yeah.
wrong RA on site.
Which sounds like has been an issue.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
true.
And if they're not up to code during their annual inspection, you can always schedule one for.
Right, a follow-up, right,
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on what was found, yeah. And we can always revisit if biannual isn't enough.
I think the Paradise has done a very nice job. I mean, our employees complained about the space, how small it was and no storage. But all in all, I mean, they put new beds in there.
Well, they cleaned up the property a lot too.
Yeah.
It was a huge
Yeah.
facelift.
But there was that people on site that would bring in cases of beer and they're not supposed to have liquor in their room. I think, no, you can have liquor in your room if you were over 21, but you also get people that aren't 21. Yeah.
Right.
And then they were, yeah, it was.
That's been going on for forever.
Yeah. So do you want to go through some of these, like what to put in them, or do you want to kind of pick?
You want to come up with something and revisit?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to take any input you have now, if you want.
I mean, we can kind of, at least to get on that, so the hotel license, so start at the bottom of that 1156A. Maybe we can just go through this page quick. Is it one page with the what's, yeah, pretty much one page.
I have a specific comment specific to the ordinance from Rich, so we can go page by page, and you guys, I can go through my pages if you guys wanna.
Oh, that
Okay,
you liked
well,
out of their
that's-
ordinance?
Yeah, I just have pretty much have to go page by page, because this time I didn't mark my comments. So I usually do that, but.
Yeah, I mean, if Jared wants to follow that, so it sounds like we're all, okay, so we do want to come up with something.
I personally think that coming up with an extended option, extended stay lodging is a good idea. Talking about what to do with that issue when we're, you guys are worried about housing safety and well-being. I think that it is legit to make sure that the people that is living there for longer periods actually are not gonna burn out because they have a hot plate and it's not.
You
safe.
know what might Andy's listening to, you know what might simplify it is have your hotel license and have an extended stay license. So if a place does 2, they have to buy 2
Yeah,
licenses.
no, absolutely.
Instead of trying to combine the 1 license, because then it might be easier to separate that tax out where it doesn't go to the lodging
Yeah, it
tax.
becomes a possibility,
It
yeah.
stays within the city. Does that make sense, Andy?
That's what is being proposed,
Yeah.
right? To have a hotel license and extended.
Yeah, at
license.
first I was thinking combine them, but yeah, I think 2 separate. Hey, yeah, if you,
Interesting when you're mute.
I was gonna say, we can definitely look at splitting it out like that, if that makes a difference in how the tax is paid and how that would work, yes.
But it also might be nice, then you have people that are gonna run just a hotel motel, and then you have people that are going to apply for this, and
and if they do both, they can do both.
right, and then they can do it.
Yeah, Tim, that wants to do
Might help with the
Well, like-
inspections too, to know kind of which ones are,
The H&H is
That's
gonna
true.
do both.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure 6 and 4, you'll probably do both.
well, those girls were gonna buy that. Did it sell?
That's right. I'm not aware of the sale as
It
of.
did.
Oh, it did? Oh,
Did.
Question on the description for extended stay lodging, it says on the, almost the last line, including, okay, accommodation for longer term stays by including additional common area amenities and in-room cooking facilities. Not that I'm say suggesting this, but I'm just throwing it out there to talk about it. Would we be comfortable or is it saying to have like communal kitchen areas and?
That's what-
I would think
rooms?
either or, in or room facilities or a communal would,
Right.
either one would satisfy. the
I think that would
requirement.
be
Yeah,
cool too, and that would be different than what this is suggesting, just in rooms, so we
Right.
need
Yeah,
to be
no.
flexible to have it
Yeah.
I
also
don't
that.
think the majority of the rooms could accommodate an in-kitchen type.
Yeah,
and it's
I
kind
don't
of what we're
think
trying to avoid is a
Yeah.
hot plate and a coffee machine, and all these things are gonna overload the electricity or keep you left attended and catch
well,
fire.
if it's designed for it, should be fine, but if they also can have the option of having a, kitchen, that's totally fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I think that it might be challenging for some, just size-wise, to be able to retrofit with a kitchen that would meet, a building code definition. So having the option might be a good way to go.
Okay, do we want to require a communal kitchen?
I think to me, one or the other.
Yeah, I'd be okay with one
Well,
the
or
other.
you don't have either. You might
think
not,
so.
you might, some places, I think of some places do an extended stay and they just have the coffee maker and a microwave in them and that's it.
I
But then
wish-
we're going back to what they are right now.
I wish I had a picture of the one, I just stayed in one this last weekend that was 298 square feet. It had a little flat top stove, a sink, a little refrigerator. It was very nice, but they also did extended stays there. It was very compact and it did have all the facilities you would need for cooking. I mean, and it was the size of this table, the entire kitchen area.
But I
It's really
think they
easy to put
do
in.
just regular hotel rooms as extended stay. Especially you look at during the winter months, you might not be booked all the time. Why not give it to somebody for a room? And they don't care if they, a microwave and a coffee maker is fine for them.
Right, and a fridge.
I think you need something. I think you need the ability to cook if you're staying there, extended as a housing space, even if it's a communal space, and you need to be able to cook.
A lot of them don't.
Are you happy to have your kitchen removed from your house?
There's a lot of these guys that come and they go eat every night, or their buddy works at Bojo's and they get their meal.
So
And
that would be the same excuse that people tell us the hotels right now,
That's
like,
what
we
it
don't
is.
need this because that's what they do.
But they have to do that now. I mean, that's their only option
only
now,
option.
so of course they do that. They
No,
might be able
I
to.
guess what we're asking is, are we gonna require the extended stays to have a kitchenette? Or you have to have a communal space?
I was thinking, yeah, that's kind of what we're leaning for.
Yeah,
But you could
it's
have
like,
either.
Either or, but you have to have something if you're gonna do extended stay.
see, and I disagree.
I would think a microwave and a coffee pot.
Exactly, I think an extended stay, to me, a microwave and a coffee pot is
And a
fine.
fridge.
And I
You gotta have some type of
ask you, are you happy to have just that in your house?
Not really.
Why should they then deal with that?
But that's the choice they made to rent a place like
Did they
that.
make that
No, they
choice?
don't have an
Or is it
option,
all
there's
that's
no
available?
options, that's the
Right.
thing here, and this means they don't have options, they have to go with that, because that's all they have.
I don't think you're gonna find these hotel rooms to have the ability to put in a kitchenette space like that because of space,
In a community?
fire hazards and well, they might not have a communal space at their hotel
They,
either.
they might
That's
have to
part of the
convert a
problem.
room or something into a
communal
communal
space.
space. I think,
I think you get into the sizing restrictions with fire hazards and stuff like that, but
Maybe that could be a requirement, they can't get their extended stay license if they don't have that. I mean, you can't, if people can't cook, they
And
can't.
this is what this is requesting.
You can do a lot of cooking in the microwave. like make a
exactly,
microwave
you can.
But you
But
just
to
said you
live
would,
there, I mean,
But it's also going to encourage them to bring in a hot plate illegally, and then you've got the
Exactly.
electrical
Exactly.
overload with
Exactly.
leaving it unattended.
and
or-
that is the issue, the biggest issue is the extension cords.
My issue is the electrical overload, not the unattended as much.
Yeah.
Exactly, well, the overload is because
Right.
of the extension cords for more
You've
than
got
they can.
3, power strips and,
Exactly.
yeah.
and I believe, and I'll double check this before, the next time we bring it up, but I think think there's also some building code,
Exactly, yes.
minimums.
Yeah.
And I think they might talk a little bit about, you know, if it is more than just a very short-term item, that you might have to have some form of kitchen or.
So I don't think,
So I can look into that, and then we can decide to go above that or not.
Yeah, maybe look at that and then we can get a gauge of like, what's already required versus what we're thinking about.
I don't think I've used my stove or my oven in 6-7 months.
What do you do?
I cook every meal. Oh, what do you eat? Wine and cheese and crackers. Come on, you don't need to cook that.
What's the requirements?
I eat
for
at work.
apartments?
I eat at work, right? That's true.
Apartments would be required to have,
I mean, they might be staying there for 3 months or 6 months, same as.
What about
extended stay
SDRs? Do
hotel.
they have like a middle ground on kitchen requirements?
oh, that's a good question.
I
Not
think
sure
you
that
look at
we
your thing and
call
decide.
out in the code, it might be more of a building code item. Yeah.
Short-term rentals, a lot of people who are just renting the room still,
Right.
they're not really there to cook.
And then there might be a communal space also because they have access to a kitchen.
Yeah,
Just curiosity.
I mean,
Can we look at what a couple other places do? as
Yeah.
well?
we could do some more research on that, sure.
Are there any small towns that have tackled this yet? I know, I can't remember our attorney's name, but I know she was always, here's what other small towns have done to tackle this.
Yeah, I'll touch base with
Nina,
Carmen.
yeah. Okay. Just a thought also, like if someone else has already tackled this, we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not opposed to that.
And I know that we did that a lot for our STR stuff. We were like, okay, here's what so-and-so did.
Jerry, I have a question on the, section 11.564 eligibility requirements for a hotel license.
Okay,
It says, the applicant, on number 1, the applicant shall have achieved and maintained the call for service, blah, 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 blah,
yep,
blah. As part of the review process for the extended stay lodging license addendum. So that means that on the top of that same page that I started reading, says that the requirement to obtain a hotel license in addition to the requirement to obtain a business license. So they need a hotel license and a business license. And then through the hotel licenses that they can get the extended stay thing? Or would that be a separate process completely from the hotel license?
well, I think we can structure it how we want, it might be kind of an add-on or like an addendum to the hotel motel license. It might not always be a completely separate license. Now, the tax question might push us to one way or another, I'm not certain on that. But if it doesn't, let's say that there's no, lodging tax implications. Well, then maybe we just do, you check the box if you're looking to do a hotel motel. You check the next box to do extended stay. And maybe that's an extra fee or something to cover our time and with the additional requirements. So I think we could structure it in a number of different potential ways.
That way they still have to do what the hotel says.
Right, because we don't want someone to just get just the extended stay.
That's what I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
if they're two separate things.
Yeah, I think it would be a subcategory most likely.
Yeah. Because otherwise.
Or
it'll
even
be a
having
long-
two separate things, it's still you have to have this one to have this one.
But that would
I
be
see what
kind
you're
of silly, that you would just be a landlord.
Someone will do it if you want.
Yeah, and that way we have additional things we can expect. If you don't consider it, they'll definitely do it.
They're already doing it though,
Yeah.
so, under the hotel license.
Yeah, and hopefully we can, strive to make it safer.
And while we're on that point, I was saying that it seems problematic to me to turn a metric into a requirement. Meaning the calls for service, because they'll no longer be a good metric. And then also it might, like I was saying, encourage people to not call the police when they maybe should,
Yeah,
I
I would really.
yeah, I was leaning towards leaving that out.
I agree with that. too.
Could we do something like we did on the short-term rentals, where if you have a fireplace, if an outdoor fire, that those are violations and you can get your license pulled?
Yeah.
So once they instead of the calls, but if you violate these,
Well, I think changing the
inappropriate
consequence-
parties or, whatever. I mean, I don't know what the calls have been, but,
Wouldn't that be under the hotel rules already or?
right. But
Like
put
a
them,
nuisance- like a
put them
nuisance
under the
section.
short-term
They do
rule,
it, they
the
do.
extended stay rules, just like they're under the short-term rentals. You can't have an outdoor fire pit.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say though is that I'm not sure, but I would think that the hotels already have those kind of rules, like they cannot do that, so.
Right.
it
But if
would
they
be-
don't, let's add it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But if it's strong enough wording that they're gonna get their license revoked because they're not following those rules. The hotel, so once in a while you get something with the hotel, that sounds like this is more happening with the calls are the hotels that are using it more for extended stay, so.
I would think there should be some, some revocation
Right.
portion.
Absolutely.
Or if they fail their annual inspection X number of times or something.
Right. But tying it to revoking the license instead of tying it to, if you break this, you get an inspection. Makes a lot more sense.
Yes, totally.
There's nothing wrong with just regularly inspecting businesses.
Yeah.
And then it's not based on the calls either, because like you said, they're not gonna turn around and call.
Do we want anything though for like neighbor calls for nuisances? Like, is there anything
Well,
about that for
that's,
STRs?
that's, I think, kind of
Okay.
like what the
I wrote-
short-term rentals
I
have.
wrote that out
and-
here when this says for
Make it
renewal
stricter.
obligations, maybe they,
Instead of the hotel calling, but if
Make-
your neighbors are calling all the time.
yeah, I don't know,
That
like,
counts.
could we ask them to have the neighbors, they have to present that letter from the neighbors themselves? Or what, or something like what we do with the short-term rentals where we.
Where you end up sending notice
Yeah.
to the surrounding
Yeah.
properties.
Uh-huh.
So
That might be a little.
most of the time, I'm in favor of that, but in this case, when it's already operating as a hotel,
Uh-huh.
I don't know that we would need to send notice to the surrounding property owners to inform them of, I guess,
A slight use and change of the room or something.
yeah, I mean, we'll do our standard public procedure for any text amendment. I'm just trying to think of what else that would accomplish. Would it, I guess we could do it maybe once at the very beginning, just to make sure that the surrounding property owners know that there are new rules governing hotel motel, and that, X things are violations. And but past that, I don't really want to send it out on like an annual basis, like we would with STRs or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely understand.
I kind of like that idea though too, because then it does notify the neighbors that, hey, if this is a nuisance, you do actually have some type of recourse.
Well, I guess we don't have our hotel verbiage. We don't have anything like this at all.
Our hotel verbiage was. isn't
So
it
when
just this
somebody
really
comes
short
in and
section?
gets a
Pretty
hotel
much, that
license,
is the definition, and then where it's allowed per zoning.
Right.
That's about it at this point in time.
I would worry
So-
about something like that, exposing them to neighbors that just don't like seeing black people there or something like that.
Some type of malicious intent,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
so you can
That's
come
true,
in and
too.
just get a
Well,
hotel
every week.
license, and they're not given a set of rules at all.
Correct, right now it's a business license. that-
So would we're wanting to make a set of rules that's in the ordinance that says, well, like I'm looking here. Indecent, blah, 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 we have to keep, no engaging in prostitution, parking areas clean,
And some-
sidewalks, stuff like that.
Yeah, some of those kind of are covered in other locations within the code. I imagine there's a section in the police code on prostitution. But
I like the
others,
licensee is delinquent in payment to the city for taxes and fees, because a lot of people don't pay their lodging tax on time. And that could be a revocation of a hotel license.
I also like the storage personal property limitations.
In the communal areas.
Yeah, because that way you don't have just the parking area just turning into a pit,
Yeah,
broken vehicles and stuff.
Yeah, what's up with that? Is that like actually part of that whole ordinance, or is it just something that is in the whole code? This section, offensive trade or business. Why is it like right immediately after this? Is it related to it directly?
I think it's the next section.
I might have clipped more than.
It's a different section.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I did.
So yeah, I was wondering why is that?
I was
So-
reading that as like the next section, but not applicable to the hotel motel.
Yeah, sorry about that. I gave you a little more info than you really need.
Okay, let's go. Just checking. I was like, well, I agree. I don't want any of that in any of the hotels.
Yeah, right.
So I think we agreeing that. Oh gosh, what are the things that I thought was important? So we think that having a communal kitchen will be a thing as well. And then the other one that you mentioned, I forgot, with my brain.
With the personal storage?
That one too.
They don't have to have it.
He was gonna look at what other places have done versus communal kitchen versus internal,
Mhm.
and the building codes, what type of electrical they're already requiring, and then we could readdress that.
And like a kitchen, and they have continental breakfast, and they got it.
A lot of hotel, you can probably go down to an, what are they called? Not American no, not
The
American.
American Inn or whatever.
You can probably
Marriott,
walk into
Hyatt.
one of those and see if you can do an extended stay in some places and they'll give it to you.
Mhm.
So it's, it's coming up with how you police it where you're not getting the people that don't want staying there. I mean, when you look at some of the places in Denver and hotels, you drive back past places, dang well, there's probably been people living there for a couple of years
Yeah,
in extended stays.
I'd say the question isn't what is the minimum that other towns can get away with, but what are we okay with? Are we okay with having living spaces where people don't have kitchens? I'm not. I don't think that's okay. I think
But
it's
it's
moral
not, I mean,
or ethical to provide that. I'd call that a slum personally. You can't cook.
Well, and then it's the aesthetics that go along with that, and then that will room for a town, and then.
Exactly.
well, then we're turning the rooms into apartments. And that's not what we're trying to
If
do.
We're
we
not
want it
turning
to
them
be
into
long-term,
apartments.
yeah.
They are apartments
And then
now.
maybe some of these people will be motivated to actually put in an apartment building. If That's really what the demographic they want to target, And honestly, we could use some more apartments.
So do you want to go through the hotel restrictions that you'd like to see, or do you want to come up with
I'd rather come up with a
what works
sample.
for the city?
I
Yeah.
mean, I've got a lot of great feedback
Okay,
and,
and then the same for the extended stay, okay?
yeah. Excellent.
I was actually really excited to see this one,
Okay.
because it's something I've thought about for a long time.
Okay,
So,
well, yeah, even our building official has brought up to us that, that it is a challenge now and it, will continue to be if steps aren't taken. And then we had that one incident that really brought it to light. That was quite egregious. And so,
Oh, was that the kids?
yes,
wait, what was
so,
Found some babies and poop.
it? What?
Found
Yeah.
babies alone, pooping.
It was awful.
Oh,
yeah,
That's great.
so that, re-energized the conversation.
I did a good job, Vicki. What you're about to say? When I said I was excited for this.
no, school. There's something I feel like I need to bring up through this conversation. Okay, so while reading this sample, I thought it was great because they definitely are aiming it toward more sort of like criminal activities, which I agree. But if our focus, I mean, it's not, but it's more like our situation in our community is very specific and special. And when we're talking about wanting to do this because of house safety and well-being, I feel like it's kind of like a chicken and an egg situation, because we want the people that is there to be safe, but I don't think we're gonna make them any safer by putting them on the street because these people are not compliant.
Yeah.
So my thought is, it's great that we're talking about this for sure, but where is the root of the problem? How can we fix this, and not just put a patch on this or just try to So the root of the problem, I think, is housing. So I would really like to see staff try to come up with a program. And there are programs in the state that facilitate or, you know, I mentioned to you before, programs where people that already has houses, they have space in their property where they can build a small unit, a studio for people who have access to housing. I think that this kind of move with a program that helps create housing for this kind of people that will be in the streets, I think will be the way to go, like something walking together,
Could we,
not just one.
I
or
don't
the
think
other.
that's kind of the charge of what he's doing. That's something that you have to go to council to and say, hey, council needs to look at these programs and come up with something like that, or the
I think
county.
we can propose them and
Yeah,
for sure,
but
we'll have to
it's,
figure it out.
We can't tell these hotels what they're to do. All we can do is give them restrictions of what they need to be accountable for on their property, like this incident we're talking about. Come on, how did the property owners let it get that way?
Because I don't care.
can we,
Well,
not
that's where you
required.
gotta make the property owners
So what happened?
accountable.
Somebody got hurt?
No, I saw that stuff.
can we maybe potentially like dog ear the money that's collected for this to go into programs or to help finance programs like that?
There
Well,
are
the money's
grants-
gotta cover the
Yeah,
staff.
there-
first.
Well, no, I mean staff, but then
There are federal grants and state grants that could make
fees
this
that could
happen.
help
Yeah.
lead towards that.
Do you remember they gave us a little like booklet at the, well, when I first started, I don't know if you got it too, but it was like affordable housing
Yeah, yeah.
options. And there's a list, I don't know how updated they are, because I have it from a couple of years,
Right.
but, it's an option. I mean, I understand that we are small, that we have you know, and everybody else helping you however they can, but
And I did get some, you know, I spoke with the plan commission previously about expanding ADUs and into other zoning districts. And everybody was on board with that. I was trying to put together a little bit larger package of text amendments, but you're correct. I do believe that running that alongside this is one small step at least in moving that forward. And staff completely understands the juxtaposition we're in, where, you know, we want to, you know, make things better for individuals, but we also don't want to displace individuals. And that's going to be a hard balance. It really will.
Right, and then we end up with even more workforce shortage or people living in their cars or a whole other issue that we've got to.
Yeah,
Well, a lot of
absolutely.
it too is they can't afford to stay at.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
it's actually a pretty good rate when you look at what a rental costs.
Absolutely.
It is the better option, but there are people that still will.
And that's the balancing act, it's the
Yeah.
health, safety, wellness,
Yeah.
and
So you wanna take with what we've got and
come
come
back
up
with some
with,
stuff.
okay?
yeah, that's our goal.
After the other con one.
Yes, number 2. Agenda, here we go. Parking requirements in downtown historic district. So, sorry, I printed this double-sided and it got screwed up on me. All right, here we go. All right, so currently there are a number of locations in downtown that are either underutilized or may see a change of use in the future. You know, I think one of them was in the newspaper that was being discussed just before the meeting. You know, an office use is different from a retail use, which is different from a restaurant use in the eyes of the parking code. The parking code does take some of this into consideration now, very small part. It does allow, if one use changes to a different one that has a higher parking requirement, you're able to still do that change of use if it's less than 125% of the parking that you need. So for instance, I provided a little chart here. It didn't show one that did comply with that 125%. It showed 2 that didn't, but there are some cases that it does comply. For instance, I have had an office use call me that wanted to go to retail use, and the square footages happened to work out, et cetera. They were able to do that if they so chose, but they would not have been able to go to a restaurant use without a variance. So that's one of the challenges that we're facing, I'm also aware that there are some second floors of buildings that are currently either unutilized or underutilized that may also go towards the housing component potentially. But one of the challenges is once if they're not utilized now and you want to change them into housing, there's a parking requirement that is associated with that. So this parking requirement in downtown is kind of a limiting factor. So there are a couple ways to potentially address this limiting factor. One would be to work on something now. Another would be to work on something now that would come into play with the potential future parking structure. So a lot of the options that I've outlined, and this is of course not an exhaustive list, focus on if and when the parking structure were to be located in the downtown. So, several of the options, one, waive the off-street parking requirements for historic downtown. That would be the maximalist approach. You would allow for those change of uses. Two would be dramatically or drastically reducing the off-street parking requirement in the historic district. So maybe that becomes either a separate table for what square footages would require what new amounts of parking spaces, or a different, instead of the 125% rule that we have now, you could do a secondary rule for the historic downtown with who knows what we think is appropriate, 175% or something of that nature, or 150% to allow for a little more flexibility there. But that doesn't necessarily, that doesn't really accommodate, those vacant spaces above on second floors. That would definitely accommodate your change of use on something on the first floor that had been in operation. So then third one, we're getting a little more creative, and this is really focused on the parking structure. Let's just say that the parking structure is built and we have X number of net new spaces. So you could put that number in kind of a hypothetical pool. And then when somebody did do a change of use, they would be, that pool would decrease. So let's say you put in 2 efficiency units that both, or 2 one-bedroom units above a building. They both took 1.5 parking spaces per code. And so you're, say, 200 new spaces created in the parking structure would, and they're not being designated, we're just saying that we have space to accommodate them. So you wouldn't get a placard, you wouldn't get a sign or anything like that. We just feel that now we have, in general, more space. 3, create an impact, or 4, sorry, create an impact fee. So if the parking structure is created, we can do an impact, or if it's not even, we could talk about that a little bit too. An impact fee for if you go over, say, the 125% require or maximum threshold, anything you require above that, you'd have to pay some kind of impact fee for. And then 5, there's always the option to do nothing, which we're not really advocating for, but there's always that option.
I think to start with, is this an issue right now?
It is to a degree, yes.
Okay.
And
So to wait on the parking structure to me is us not doing anything, because you're talking a few years out.
Potentially.
Yeah, so if we want to come up with a solution, then we need to not even consider the new parking structure. Would you agree?
And number 3 is also fairly complicated. Well,
Yeah.
it makes sense. There's probably side effects or bugs, if you will.
But I mean, because by the time that thing gets built, this is gonna have to be readdressed again. So we should,
Possibly.
so we should come up with something that's gonna work now for these places that do want to do it. So we don't miss the opportunity of letting them being able to do something.
Yeah, I would definitely lean towards not limiting potential business.
What are the
I
downsides of just completely waiting?
I
Just to
personally
start.
like number 4. It's kind of like a water tap. If you're putting in something and you get a water tap, you pay your
What is-
water tap fee.
Where do the parking spots, the people in downtown count right now for? Like the ones on Minor Street or the parking lot? Do they count parking spots right now or no?
So we, the city has when it comes to the parking revenue generator, we have a pretty good idea of how many spaces we lose on a daily basis to employees, to, people who live in that area, because as I'm sure most of, if not all of you are aware, if you live in the county, or especially in the city, you can,
It's
send in
free.
your license plate and you're free. So we have a number of spaces in the area that are taken up right now by people who aren't paying for parking. So we have some metrics there. So that's a good baseline for us. The challenge with it is right now, it's once again, it's that balancing act. Do you waive the code requirement for downtown, allow these new residential units to go in, which is great for workforce, et cetera. But does that then decrease your parking in the short term, at least for patrons of those businesses? And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out.
Right, when those businesses need those housing for employees, that's quite a,
Like you said, Uchi said,
Quite a
it should be
relationship.
a deal.
Yeah.
It
going
doesn't
on.
seem like there's much of an option if you want them to be used. I mean,
Can we make a mix of
Just go
1
with
and 4? And so we waive the off-street parking for all residential units and then commercial stuff pays.
ooh, that's interesting. And also potentially changing the 125%, I mean, because that's kind of in the mix as well.
Like
So-
lowering,
So like right now, let's say we have an empty upstairs unit, it's nothing, and they want to put in residence.
do
A
it.
1-bedroom is 1.5 spaces.
Yeah.
A 2-bedroom is 2,
Is it 1.75, I believe. I
okay,
think a studio is 1.25, I believe, 1 bedroom is 1.5, 1.75.
And you know
And then I think a
everybody's got
2-bedroom is,
so- So that number is low.
right, so it's 2.
Yeah.
So waive it for new residentials,
Need it.
need it. Now,
But residentials aren't allowed on the bottom.
right, so it's only a few potential units upstairs that we're even talking about. What's that?
What if we tell them, okay, yeah, we will waive your parking, but you will sign a contract saying that you're locking how much you charge. So they cannot just charge a ridiculous amount of money.
So it has to be somehow.
So we're
affordable.
like, I help you, you help us.
You help the
What do you
city.
mean a
the city-
ridiculous amount of money for rent?
Yeah.
Yeah,
People pay it.
but rent control is a thing.
Well,
But we need to help our
And
peeps.
You cannot find a place to rent and you can charge whatever you want. People are renting them.
Well,
That's
this
the
is-
problem.
But this is connected to our first
No,
issue.
that
tonight.
means they can afford, there's people that are renting
But
stuff.
they
that
But
can
it,
build
but it
anything,
pushes
that's it.
other people over to the H&H
Yeah.
and the Argo.
Yeah,
I
I kind of like that idea.
Hopefully they'll get these apartments going pretty dang quick.
And Why
Because I
count
mean,
on that when they're not
otherwise
counting on
they
the
can't
parking
even
space?
build anything and they just have an empty space.
No, I think letting them build in their upstairs is great, yeah. I don't have a problem. I don't know.
Because the county or the city already has a
What's
metric
the
of like
percentage of
rent rates,
employees
right? that people
and,
can afford.
Yeah, based on the
Median
living
income.
people, yeah.
I mean, okay,
Yeah.
so for, you live here,
Mhm.
so how do you, like, on the 4th of July, come home and park?
Takes like 30 minutes.
I drove through downtown twice on the 4th, and as soon as I pulled in, I found.
And then other days I find a spot like that. It's the lottery. Weekends, it's the lottery. Sometimes I come home with my Costco and my laundry and I circle for 30 minutes, and other times, hey, look, a spot in 3 minutes.
Yeah,
So
they just, yeah. they just
if it
got that
rains,
time.
I get a spot.
You get a spot.
I'm hoping for rain. But
I stood out on the corner and directed people to other lots for a while. and
well, especially on the
that-
4th, because it was really hard to get to the old post office
Yeah,
lot.
I got lucky.
It was really hard to get to that lot, so it was great.
That's true. Yeah.
So like, I don't know, more of like a couple of questions. Do we take into account previous uses? So like if something was a restaurant and now it's retail, it wants to go back to restaurant. Now it's still back in this map, or because it used to be a restaurant, it's allowed to go back to a restaurant?
So under our current ordinance, it would be the current use and then whether if they met the 125
Okay.
or not.
I was
That's
just
how
curious.
that's how the ordinance is now.
I mean, right now, the changes you're having are pretty minimal, aren't they?
Most of the spaces are fairly small in nature.
Or
And
they go like
so,
to like?
sometimes, other times there are some interest in, going from an office to do something else.
Also,
So again, it's minimal, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
but it's minimal because you're not allowed to change too much.
Oh, right, there might be more
You have to
change.
go through all that and you might have to go through building codes because
Yeah.
for the rest, yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, I looked at a space for a change of use and,
it would have cost you a fortune to fix it, to make it work.
well, totally, and this
Yeah.
was one of the issues,
Okay.
And so saying that like, oh, it doesn't happen much now, is because it's not allowed to. I'm not saying that we should just waive it, but like, that's why it doesn't happen
Right.
much.
I do get inquiries from time to time.
Yeah.
You said residential is allowed on the bottom, but there's tons of residential units on the bottom. Is it their grandfather or something?
Where are they on the bottom?
Where are they on the backside?
They're on the backside.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking the retail space in the front,
Okay.
downtown.
So if someone wants to split one of their units back into an apartment, front into a, that's allowed?
Yeah, because there's that one place
Not on
with
the
the
first floor.
apartments in the back.
Yeah, that's what I mean on the
I'd
first
have
level, 'cause
to-
there's
Just on the
several
second floor.
there's several with apartments on the back, on the first floor.
They're
Yeah.
really grandfathered in.
Their grandfather,
Grandfather
that's-
or
yeah.
never permitted.
Just doing it.
okay.
Yeah, oftentimes. it'd be a
And it's
grandfather's
the
scenario.
one is the apartment's beautiful.
Beautiful apartment, yeah.
It's like,
There's
wow.
several very beautiful apartments on the main floor,
Huh,
but
sounds nice.
they
I
are,
wanted to-
yeah. When the buildings are for sale, you go snoop.
You're right.
I guess what's gonna make things happen?
Yeah, like would 150% be enough to facilitate some of the things you've seen?
150%, for instance, in our, in the example here, you did 150%, you would be able to go from the 5 because it would be
7.5.
7.5, but you wouldn't be able to go all the way to the restaurant sometimes. But it would allow for a more of an incremental jump for people rather than, I've only had one that's like, okay, yep, you have a small enough square footage, it didn't really raise your parking amount, so go for it. Because you were under the 125. But on bigger spaces, you do get into that, it's more challenging on bigger spaces to meet the 125. So
Is there a requirement right now that if you change the use, you have to put in a sprinkler system? Or is that just if you go to a
Depends on the
restaurant?
fire code.
The
Depends on the
occupancy.
use.
Depends
right?
on-
The occupancy.
Sometimes they have to put in ADA bathrooms and stuff, it depends on the extent of the remodel.
I thought that was a big deal for the cidery, but they spent all that money putting in that. I
they,
just didn't know if that was a requirement or if that's just depending on.
some building codes require certain things, and we're on the ICC building code. And so once you get over certain thresholds, you have to have, you can't have a single bathroom, you have to have a double. I think one of the things that the cidery ran into is they wanted to put tables outside in the small courtyard. And that calculation of overall occupancy for their space put them over a building code threshold, and so then they had to add.
Speaking of which, are businesses paying anything for the space they're using downtown now? Or is that being calculated into anything?
So there is a licensing. We did waive that this year because we had to change all of our rule structure because the state of the state of Colorado
It's very tough.
did not extend the emergency order to allow for outdoor dining, outdoor consumption. So we had to, the city as a whole pivoted, found a new mechanism to do that and change that in a very short time frame.
Gotcha.
So there is one in the future, but this year there was not a fee associated with that.
Have we ever thought of letting businesses buy license or buy parking spot? No, you build a condo in Denver, it costs you $35,000 to get a parking spot in the building you live in, or you might pay monthly rentals. I mean, not that we want to go there, that's getting up there, but they do charge, like someone like yourself, your landlord, or you'd have to.
To have a designated spot.
Yeah, to have a designated spot.
The main issue we have with designated spots is we have a very finite and limited amount of parking to begin with. If we start putting signs up at designated spots.
And then they're empty.
And then they're empty, it definitely has an impact
And
on.
there's always to monitor that and tow that, and there's just a whole lot of pieces to that.
That's true as well, yeah.
If anything, I can see it maybe for residential, but
Yeah, yeah, just for, yeah, potentially. What about, have we considered, open, the whole thing being permitted to carry your alcohol? I know every restaurant has a no alcohol beyond this point.
They did do that for some.
They're all no alcohol beyond their seating.
it's complicated. but-
It's complicated.
So we did do a trial run on the
Okay.
4th of July. So we were planning on discussing how that went, getting a kind of recap from the police chief, asking some of the local businesses. Yeah, I didn't monitor it as much later in the evening, but earlier in the day, it seemed to be working really well. So it is kind of on a trial basis. So we have some large proponents of that, and we have some that they're still hesitant.
Of course.
And so, you know, we are trying to do a few more events that would allow for some open, I say open carry, and that's not a great. term.
Container, open containers,
Open
open carry is a different thing.
Yeah.
And we don't want to advertise we're having open carry.
Thank you.
Totally different crowd then.
Yeah, so, but that is ongoing conversation. So, yeah.
Anyway, back to the parking. So 150% would accommodate more? of
It would
what
accommodate more.
One thing though on that, because I thought that could be an option, but we still don't have much more parking, so my thought is like, what do we want in our community? You know, I mean, do we want them all to be restaurants if we can? I mean, we kind of
Sure.
would like to have a bigger variety, yeah, but can we have that right now when we don't have a building, a parking structure?
Right, what can the town support? How many restaurants? can it support? How many
Exactly.
retail?
Exactly,
Yeah.
is that, can we even come up with a idea, you know, like, oh, I don't know, like, can
Well, in
we?
busy time, it could certainly support another one when everyone has a.
So you're
40-minute
almost
wait.
saying leave it
Yeah.
at like it is right now until,
Or a fee, so maybe up to 150% and then a fee if you want to go to 200%. Type of thing, that fee is earmarked specifically for the new parking garage. Trying to fund that garage any way we can.
So, I mean, that is somewhat a possibility because we do have a fund established just for the garage and we can allocate where those revenue sources come from.
the
So
impact
that's,
fees, yeah. That's.
and the
was my
impact fees
thought,
could
too.
potentially go towards that.
So like Gucci said, it could be like a 1 and a 4, like for housing, we waive it. For other uses, we go to 150, and then if you want to go 200, you pay a fee.
Waive it if you control your rent on housing.
Yes, yes.
And if you don't want to control your
What's the
rent, we won't.
control? Who's got the number for what?
The
they-
That'd be something to talk about, but there's a
Yeah,
typical way to
we'll
calculate it.
research.
Yeah, the median housing cost in the county, just like they did with the new apartment building.
I know,
That's
but
rent
there's-
controlled.
The
There's a
AMI,
couple of
yeah.
those that do it in the state, I'll ask George to give me those. that is on this.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do rent control, then you pay the fee. Then you pay your fee, you get more parking.
I don't mean worry about the fee, but it's like, we
Yeah, you
still
say
don't
that.
have any more space, you
Right,
know,
right.
so we're still making our lives harder. I
Yeah,
don't know.
but I also just hate to see places sitting empty because we can't lose that tax revenue because we're telling them no, because we don't have parking.
Hmm.
But we'll get the parking if we have the tax revenue to build the garage.
It seems like.
I don't know if the tax revenue from the house.
Could we allow someone to start a business if they ship their people on a bus? Bringing a bus and bringing back in a bus.
On the empty housing units and even the empty retail units, I mean, when parking's already tight and you have empty units. It's a hard pill to swallow, but to me, it just seems like getting the tighter on parking is the cost of activating those units.
Yeah,
I mean, you want them if they're empty now and parking's tight, you want to activate them, parking will get tighter. I mean, we can come up with different rules and incentives and fees, but
I don't think
I
right
know
now
that
any
there's a
of
way
those
around that.
aren't being developed because they don't have parking. I think it's, you know, I think of the one across here, it's been sitting like that for 5-6 years and they have no intention of doing anything.
yeah, Yeah, they might have different motivations.
Exactly.
But yeah, you know, if they did come in though, I would like to have an avenue that we could point them to.
Beyond a variance.
What are you seeing that would work the best?
No,
You're the
I,
one that's talking with these and,
no, I appreciate all the comments. I think we've come up with some very interesting ideas. And I am happy to take those comments and start to formulate some
okay.
options that are more fleshed out than my 5
Yeah, this was
very
the first,
broad ones.
this was the
Yes,
first
yeah.
brush. It's,
But no, I think this has been a great conversation. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like kind of fun to start to play with those scenarios.
Could we potentially see how many empty units we're talking about? I mean, how many places we are even potential for the housing, how many people, how many units are even empty? So we can
Downtown.
see how much of an issue this, downtown in the historic district, just to see how much of an issue this is.
I only can think of,
Like how many of the empty
Is there
could
only-
be restaurants?
or is
how
there
many
only
would be
one?
other things?
But also
There-
there's
the
multiple
one, why
retail
is the one
stores.
closed all weekend?
There's 10 empty apartments that I can think of above, off my head right now.
But they're not developed to be
HD.
apartments just yet.
I'm not sure about the guy across the street, but the ones on this side are definitely
You
developed.
know what? I looked at buying that building, man, am I kicking my butt.
Right.
I bought it for free. And
Oh,
there's
Which
3
one?
apartments up there.
oh.
The old Dobbs place or?
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, yeah, I was being dumb.
The grocery store one?
I know how we can have one parking spot downtown. That van,
Oh, yeah.
I have complained and complained about it, and in our ordinance, if a vehicle doesn't move in 24 hours, that thing has been sitting there for 7 months and it hasn't moved.
Where?
Where?
The one
By
by the Vintage Moose. It snows and the snow's on there. Flyers are put on there and they stay there until the wind blows them off. That thing has not moved. And the argument I've heard people say is, well, it's licensed to somebody downtown. Well, it doesn't have a plate on the front. Colorado law says you have to have a plate on the front and the back,
all,
and it hasn't moved. That
You
could be
only
a
have to have a
parking
plate if
spot,
it moves.
huh?
You only have to have a plate if it moves.
well, but it's on public property.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
But no,
So-
but we've let it sit there for 7 months. It's like,
No,
come on.
I will bring that up again.
What?
I thinking from my.
I'm surprised nobody's stripped it down yet.
That was the one back into my car. and-
You know what, maybe somebody's
I'm
living in the
named
back of it, it would be housing.
I will bring that up
May
again.
11th. I'll-
Mine.
It's been brought up so many times.
Yeah.
Even if he's permitted to park back there, it still hasn't moved, that's a violation of one of the ordinances anyway. You gotta remove them, what, every 24 hours, or what is it?
I didn't even know you could park back there 24 hours.
You can't,
Right.
well, no,
If you're a
because
resident.
if you're,
If you have a residence permit, I don't think we have to move every 24 hours.
Right.
Cause I
Right.
don't.
and the story I
Move
heard,
like
there's a
once every few
residence
days.
permit,
Mhm.
but it still has
Oh, that
to,
could be it.
it doesn't mean it sits there for 7 months.
Yeah. Long as mine's.
I thought of it every time I drove downtown on the weekends. It's like, okay, I could park right there.
I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to ensure that it's operable.
Well, we could always move Bojo's trash to Bojo's land and there'd be 5 more spots.
Well,
That's communal.
yeah, the plan, the
We made
downtown
this
master
one.
plan did talk about some more nodes for garbage, but also laid out reconfiguration of parking, we've done some investigation into, and of course, the structure, so
Yeah.
it envisioned a few other things too.
When's the house moving?
That's a great question.
I thought it was imminent.
Well, it was, we've had a few delaying items, but we're hoping August, September.
I just want to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
That's gonna be neat.
That's
It
how
might
this
be
building got
overnight.
here.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah.
Which, what is it?
the old clinic.
Yeah.
I went
Perplexed that it's historic
into
enough, But
the business here over the weekend. I
Okay,
think they've been doing a very good job.
did they get
From
approved
what
for the
I've
rafting?
seen.
Yeah,
Yep,
and they're operating.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they've been-
they had an open house on,
I saw that like free crafts and stuff.
yep,
and-
the
yeah.
kids, they were doing face painting and, those bikes look pretty cool. They look heavy.
Electrics?
Yeah,
Yeah, I rode one of them in Mexico
Did you?
first time. They're great. You pedal them and they boost when you pedal. They're really fun to ride.
Have you noticed anything over there with?
We've noticed a few things
few
here and
things.
there, yeah, in general though, yeah, in general, they've been operating pretty well, but. Yeah, we've noted a couple items and we've talked with them about it,
And they addressed
I
it?
don't know, I don't recall if the planning commission. Actually, I think this was an item that came up after the planning commission meeting. The city council ended up adding a condition also that states on an annual basis. They would come back to the planning commission just for a review of their operation, how they think it's going, et cetera. So I know at one point in time, they were a little disgruntled with me because they thought I was picking on them. And I assured them that that's not my point. My point is that
Conditions.
I want to make sure when you come up for your annual review, that you can say, yep, this was an issue, but we tackled it. That's rather than just springing some list on them.
Mhm.
So I think they understood that and, we continue to try to work together and to move forward on on a mutually beneficial, use there.
I saw a van with a trailer, I don't remember if it had boats or not, but they were staging the
At the bank,
bank.
yes.
I
And
saw.
I was like,
that.
I didn't say anything because I was like, okay, they're not.
But who
operating right
was
now.
doing it?
I don't know,
I saw it too.
but
I thought the
I
same thing,
assume it
but-
was them, because who else?
Well, like,
I think anybody can pull up because, and just like everybody was parking there, it's free parking there right now.
Yeah,
So why not?
The use may change on that, and that may be
Right.
more challenging in the future, but we'll see.
Are there any
Is that
conditions
sold?
on,
Yeah, I believe I heard it sold. I'm not sure exactly who it's sold to yet, but
the rafting place next to Come and Go? They park their vans with their trailers out there for hours on end. Are there any conditions on them?
They're not allowed to load or unload on the street.
Haha.
They're not, right, Andy? That was a big problem last year.
because that's what I had to build.
Yeah.
No, but that's law enforcement then. They're not supposed to load or unload on the street, their vans and rafts,
Okay.
right?
That's right, on Idaho, on the east side of 13th. On the west side, going eastbound, large vehicles can park there or stop there. Buses, trailers, things like that. That actually is in our parking plan on the west side of Idaho, or west side of 13th on Idaho. But on the east side, there's no room. That's posted, no parking.
Well, what he's saying is they're loading and unloading their rafters right there on the street for the, come and go in the building.
Yeah, so their bus is out there with the
So
trailer full
it's
of rafts.
stopping traffic.
Yeah.
Because they're loading.
That's not permitted.
Okay.
I see Jared adding to his list.
You come around that corner and it's just a standstill.
Yeah.
And it's kind of dangerous because it's blind
and that's the main thoroughfare into
down there.
everything else right now.
Yeah.
So.
One more thing, sorry guys, going back to the last item we talked about, I just noticed something. Here, Jared, you requesting discussion and direction in the event that the parking structure is constructed. But since we need housing right now, would it be possible to just without the parking, just right now allow people to just, if we're gonna be build residential units, just let them wait.
We can craft something now, we can craft something later. Please don't let that, general comment, in my report limit our line of thinking.
Okay, I was just making sure in case it was like, yeah, this is only if, but I think that, I think that'll be a really good deal. We can
No, I
activate
think we
those
should do something about
spaces.
this now and again with the parking structure, because then it's gonna be a whole new ballgame.
That's
So,
what he's gonna do,
yeah,
come up with
yeah.
something and bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in a perfect world, if we can formulate something now that works from both, cool, but that may or may not
Yeah.
happen. So,
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, thank you for bringing both these up. They're great.
Yeah, thank you so much, all of you, for your input. Appreciate it.
Do we have anything coming up with?
I have one potential in August. Still working with a potential applicant there, so there's a possibility.
Yeah, no, I think to your list. Do you mind asking Martha, or maybe that's something I could do directly? I would like to find out what is the procedure or the legality or whatever to get us involved in helping you maybe with the, for example, the program, for example, well, it's a word in Spanish. If we were to help you figure it out how to get this housing programming, started, or brainstorming, how could we help you? Can we volunteer to help you with that in any way? Do we need to create a subcommittee to do that or not? Is it something that we absolutely cannot do?
Well, because we had affordable housing discussions in this group
Yeah, we have
before.
but I
So,
don't know, we've talked and given direction, but I don't know if something we can also get in more into, like, we're gonna get together and we're gonna do some investigation and come up with ideas.
like,
I
are we
don't know
allowed
if-
to do that type of thing?
Yeah, I love all those things, but I don't know.
So a couple things in that regard, and we did receive a housing grant for working on a plan. So that'll be, coming, that whole process will be coming in the future. And my guess is we might need, once we have a consultant, et cetera, need stakeholders or a steering committee, something of that nature. We could potentially do either another group or work within this group, but as long as there's more than 2 people from, any committee or council, we would have to post it, it have to be a public meeting, et cetera, too. So. Yeah,
More than 2.
yeah, 2, well, yeah, more than 2. So you can always, for
Sunshine
instance,
Okay.
yeah, so gotta make sure we're good on the sunshine law. So,
So, it's a good thing.
yeah.
It just came out, look at it.
It's the time to walk home. I don't need my umbrella now.
All right, so we're good?
Yes, well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a great evening.
It's pouring on the way out.
Oh, you can bring my car.
I was like, I don't really need it on the way here, but.
Just in case.
Jared, how come Habitat for Humanity hasn't started?
Yeah, they've been trying to tackle some,
Probably costs, construction costs.
there's a couple things there. So they had like a general design, but now they brought on some more architects to do the fine tuning of that design. So they are still working on the interior building layouts and things of that nature.
Well, after that first part,
Oh, I know.
that's ridiculous.
I know.
What did the school district add to that?
Well, I don't think people think that. I mean, construction costs are crazy. No, just like everyone's talking affordable housing, it ain't gonna be affordable because of the construction costs.
Yeah, construction is a challenge here
Yeah.
lately, getting contractors and materials.
Say the 647.
No,
All right.
the 2 girls that bought the very
Thank you, Eddie.
had,
Have a good
looked
evening.
at purchasing it, and they ended up not doing it. So I don't know if it